Hi, everybody. Welcome to All About the Gig. My name is Stephen O'Brien, and I'm delighted to have you here today. If anyone's watching from LinkedIn or from YouTube, before we get started, just going to go through a little bit of housekeeping on the stream. If you do have any questions, please feel free to submit any of the questions into the comment section, and we'll get them towards the end of the stream. So our first guest today is one of Ireland's top photographers. He has worked across every venue you can imagine in Ireland, including the Three Arena, the Olympia Theatre, Crow Park, you name it, he's been there. He's worked with amazing acts such as Westlife, Picture This, Wild Youth, and with LinkedIn with myself. He's an absolute pleasure to work with. So with that, I'm absolutely delighted to bring in Ray Keogh.
Hey, how's things?
Welcome to the stream, Ray. How are you feeling?
Hey, not too bad. Thanks for having me along.
No problem. Thursday evening, getting stuck in. Yeah. Great to have you here.
What else would you be doing in the quarantine?
Exactly, that's it. Nice one, Ray. So for anyone that maybe hasn't met you before, do you want to give us a brief background to yourself and where you're from?
Yeah, pretty much basically just doing photography work and video work over the last few years. Started off doing camera work as a bit of a hobby. I used to work with UPC and I'd always have a camera with me. And in the middle of the recession, got let go. So I decided to try and make the hobby a profession. So I went back to college about 8-9 years ago. Studied TV production. After that, got into some corporate work, done that for a couple of years and then went freelance. So I've been doing kind of music stuff, corporate stuff, anything that comes my way these days. So
nice one. Brilliant. And what kind of age did you kind of realize you wanted to kind of, step into photography full time?
I'd say it was around that time, about 8 years ago. So it would have been kind of like mid to late 20s. I always did that as a hobby. People always commented that I was always taking photos of everything. Kind of got a bit fed up trying loads of different things with photography. So started getting into video work. Then with the recession happening, I was like, looked at my options. So I decided to just go back to college. Saw Valley Pharma were doing a TV production course. So I just jumped on that. And since then, I've been giving it a go and been able to do it ever since.
Nice one. For maybe anyone that doesn't know the difference, would you be able to give us a brief differentiation between what a photographer does and what a videographer does, or are they the same thing? Tricky one.
Yeah, well, they're both using the camera, but it kind of depends on the clients. Like for the camera work, for photography, like you can be doing stuff for magazines, for catalogs, social media, websites, whatever. Video work, you can be brought in doing all that stuff for websites, socials, TV.
Yeah, and like, do you reckon it's more difficult, to produce a video, from start to finish, i.e., editing it, shooting it, or shooting just like a photo shoot where it's kind of, maybe stationary shots and there's not as much production going on? Which do you think is more difficult, or do you enjoy more even?
Well, I suppose it would depend on the client and the project. If you're doing photography, like you could do that solo, you could just go in and set up a couple of lights, or you can just do run and gun stuff. You could have a big production. You could have a lot of people working on that shoot. The same with it's kind of the same with video, but generally, if you're doing a big video shoot, you'd have a much bigger crew. You can get away with doing kind of like single crew photo shoots a lot easier than if you're doing video work, because if you want something really professional with video, you're better off having a sound guy, lighting guy.
Yeah, there's more to it.
Stuff like that. Yeah, so you can get away with smaller stuff with just yourself, but yeah, with the photography, you can do a lot of that. Again, like it depends on the size of the project. If you're doing a big project for a big magazine or corporate job, you'd have like a lot more crew involved.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I mean, like, out of your work these days, what percentage would be, like, are you seeing more of a demand for photography, or more along the lines of video shoots you're working on? Because I know content now for social media platforms like LinkedIn, like Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, it's so in demand. So what are the requests you're getting these days? Is it more one way or the other?
In the corporate world, I'm getting way more video work. Personally, I'm just getting way more video work in the corporate world. With photography, I do a lot more music-related stuff, press shoots, promo work, shooting the gigs. But I do a lot of video with the music stuff as well. But yeah, I'm finding with the corporate stuff, I'm getting way more work doing video. I think video content is really taken off over photos.
Yeah, for sure. Right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I could imagine. I mean, this video content now is so important to have consistency and to be able to distribute your videos across all the different platforms. And like, do you feel that video has more impact, let's say, maybe than pictures, or does it depend on the kind of type of post you're trying to get, or what kind of engagement you're trying to get, or which do you, from your experience working with clients, do you think video has more impact, or is it more picture based?
Yeah, I suppose it kind of depends on what the content is. Like if I'm doing a gig, usually throwing up some photos, because people are scrolling so much just because it's a gig and they happen so often. People will just look at some photos and move on. But if it's a bigger kind of production, like the video work tends to catch your eye a lot more. People will go for the video work for the corporate stuff. Just kind of you can kind of capture more in the video if you're trying to get a point across. If you're trying to like sell a product, if you're trying to do something like that, you can put more information into it. Whereas if it's just kind of shooting a gig or press release or something like that, photographs, people just scroll by, and then the video will catch your eye. So yeah, if you have more to kind of like put into a project, more information, video work definitely is video content is definitely where you go for that.
Absolutely. And in relation to video content, I guess it's so important, right, to get your content, and get the message of the video across, quickly, because as you can see from engagement online, even just for myself, excuse me, you can see that it's your content has to hit quick and fast. Do you reckon that like that the 90-second kind of, the standard kind of 90-second recommended video length for video posts is accurate, or do you think it should be shorter than that, or what? I know Instagram used to be 30 seconds and bumped it up to 60 seconds, didn't it, for posts?
I think if you are doing a video post for Instagram or socials, if anybody came to me, I'd suggest 90 seconds maximum.
90 minutes be long.
Yeah, 90 minutes, okay.
Yeah,
I'd say 90 seconds probably maximum, because people's attention spans are so short. People scroll so quickly that like if you don't have somebody's attention in 5 seconds, they're going to leave the video. So you want to get the video as short as possible, get as much content in. Depending on like who the client is or what the product is, sometimes some things it can fit like a 2.5 minute long video. But for most stuff, if you're just trying to catch somebody's attention, just to try and get them kind of to stop and look at what it is that you want to try and promote, I think the shorter the better.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually it's a really good point. I guess you made something, that if you are posting on socials and you're making video content for socials, that you do have to take into consideration that people are flicking, through feeds literally on their phone. So the video has to drop quick. And so
like as somebody who makes stuff for people to view and spends a lot of time making it, and someone who scrolls, like if I'm making content, sometimes I can think like, I'll make something really long, it's going to be really cool, I'm going to put a lot of time into it, put it out, and then I'm not thinking that like when people are scrolling, they don't have as much interest in it because they're seeing so much stuff. They're just seeing the thing that I put out just as it shows up on their feed, whereas I've lived with it for a week or two making it. And then as somebody scrolling, if something doesn't grab my attention in the first 5 seconds, I'm going to scroll on and just keep going. That person that posted that content is going to be in the shoes I'm in. They would have spent ages doing that, put it out. I know what it's like just to scroll past. If it doesn't catch my attention, I'm going to stay going. So that's why that's why I, from seeing it from both sides, know what it's like to spend a lot of time making something and putting it out. Sometimes you think, oh, this is great, but if you don't have people's attention at the start, they're not going to see all that great stuff in the middle and the end. They're just going to scroll past it. So you want to do stuff that's going to catch people's attention, and the shorter the better. Yeah,
it is. It's such a good point, because usually when you're making, a video or even a movie or something, you know, or a song, it build, usually like in your mind you want it to build up, and then it's, you know, have the big impact at the end. But I guess the way people consume video content, consume any sort of content on social media, it's the opposite, right? It has to just, you know, that first few seconds are the most 10, probably the first 5 to 10 seconds. Videos should only be produced in a way that those few seconds are what does, you know, grab you in, you know.
Yeah, well, like a good kind of like example of that kind of thing is if just say you did make a music video, the music video is 3.5 minutes long. If it starts off a bit slow but it builds to something, what people do is the build up for the week. So if that video is coming out on Friday, you want people to watch that entire thing. If you just post that on Friday and people are scrolling, they'll just see it and scroll past. But if you lead up to it in the week and put in those 10-second snippets of those good bits of the song, that's going to get people's attention as they're scrolling. Then they'll know to look for that thing, and then they'll stop, and they'll know that it's there, and then they'll stop and they'll watch the whole thing. But if you're just putting out the little snippets to get people's attention for that bigger project, small little snippets are going to catch people's attention. They'll know that something's coming later. They'll see another thing the next day. If you do like a bit of a build up, you release something every day. So you get those little snippets of that interesting thing, so they know that this 3-minute long thing is worth watching then. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So I guess to that point, I suppose what you're getting there is you're getting micro content, right, from the video itself. So, you know, if for example, if you worked with a client and you built, you know, a 2-minute video, you could essentially use that 2-minute video and chop it up if it's produced correctly and it's created and directed properly, to have micro content within that. And then you're, you know, like your ROI on investing in video is coming back with video that you can chop up and use over maybe, you know, 2-3 months worth of content from the one investment in the one video shoot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's the way I would do stuff anyway. If I was dealing with a client and they had something, I'd suggest to them that like either I could make up the little clips to send on to them as well with the product, or else a lot of times they just take the full video and then they get their marketing team and they'll cut up the video themselves, kind of like tease out what's coming along.
Yeah, it's such a good way of using, you know, when you do invest in video, like, you know, like many companies are doing, which is because it's so important to have a strong video game, and to, you know, keep that in mind that you are getting micro content. It's a good investment in, you know, promoting yourself essentially.
Yeah, like another thing as well, like if a company's going to pay for a video to be made and they put it out, like if somebody just watches that 3 minutes for the one day, they see it, and then that's it. They just see that final video. That's just that day that they kind of get out of it. They start building up to it over the week, then they get a week's worth of content for that one video, week's worth of marketing. So if you're trying to put out content and just like try to be out there, like all those little bits, you can take that one video and just kind of like tease up to that one big one, get a week's worth of content out of it instead of just that one day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I really love that approach. It's, you know, it's in line with, you know, keeping your brand consistent and keeping your post consistent and keeping your engagement consistent, because you're getting so much out of the video. I'd love to just dive into a little bit of tech stuff with you. So give us a rundown of your kind of go-to kit. So like, hit me with your favorite, you know, your go-to lens body, maybe, or sorry, your go-to body, your go-to lens, your favorite, the gear that you use, I guess.
Well, at the moment, what I've been using for the last few years for video work is just a GH5 body. So just that'd be the video stuff. Pretty much anything that I've shot over the last three and a half years, I've been on that. I've got a couple of kind of kit lens that came with it that kind of zoom, and then other ones that give a kind of more cinematic look, a wide look. So you can kind of capture everything with that. Depending if it's like run and gun for a gig or something like that, I just have a little Rode mic sitting on top, and just I try to keep things as light as possible if I'm doing a shoot. Like if it's a bigger production, big lighting setups, sound equipment, I have a Zoom mic that I kind of plug the lapels in or whatever to get the audio. I try to keep things as light as possible. Like I've done big productions, and I've worked on, when I was working with that corporate company, I had like so many big productions where you'd have lighting everywhere, people everywhere, and
Yeah,
like
you have to be quick.
You can kind of get similar results if you can make it smaller. If you kind of know what you're looking for, like sometimes you don't need all of the big equipment. So yeah, try to keep that as small as possible. Then with the photography, I have a Canon EOS R, new mirrorless one for the photography, and most of the lenses are interchangeable, so I have the same ones for both. But yeah, I try to keep that kit as small as possible. Try to keep as little lens as possible, because a lot of the jobs that I tend to do, they're not always just like in one room set up. There's a lot of moving around, so the less gear that you're able to get away with on a shoot, the less set up, the less tear down, the less moving around.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess for the customer or for the client, it's more content, because you're not spending as much time, setting up, running around. You're getting straight into shooting, getting straight into capturing the moments that you're trying to capture. So yeah, I mean that makes really good sense.
Yeah, it can also keep budgets down as well. Like if there's a big budget, then you can invest in more gear to make stuff look better and get more people in that are able to operate it. But if you can keep budgets as low as possible with the least, if you can get the best looking picture with the least amount of gear, that's usually my approach for stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good point, because budgets are extremely important right now to be able to maximize them. So I think that philosophy is really good. What about your go-to editing tool for post-production work?
Well, for photography, it's Lightroom. So I just do all the basic edits and that. If I need to do, I try not to do much Photoshop, but if I do, like I just do Lightroom and Photoshop. So they'd be the only things I'd use for photography. Then for video, it's Premiere Pro. I have the Adobe suite, so I use Premiere for video. If I have to do any graphics, any motion graphics or title cards or lower thirds or anything like that, I'd make them in After Effects. And they'd be my main editing softwares.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're the kind of gold standard, kind of, really, when it comes to videography and photography. They're the same ones I use myself.
Yeah, see, like I'm also on a Windows, so I can't get the Final Cut Pro. That's only on Mac. But the good thing with the Adobe suite is you have all of the stuff on the one suite, but that's interchangeable between Mac and Windows. So
yeah,
if I do a project, I can send it to someone on Mac, they can edit it. If they only have Final Cut and try to send it to other people, it kind of limits you in a way as well. So it's better to have the Adobe suite, because it's a bit more versatile and more people are using it.
Yeah, gotcha. Absolutely. So Ray, I'm going to ask you a very subjective question. What, in your opinion, makes a good picture? It makes a good photo? Tough one. That's a tough one, maybe.
I don't know. I think if it's something that, personally, when I try to do a photo, like if it's a photograph of people, they have to be looking the best that they can in that photo. I try not to set things up too much. Like if I'm doing corporates, like it's usually kind of like either headshots or product photography. So like you have to be kind of technical with that. But if I'm doing stuff with clients where they're doing a photo shoot or shoot music, something that is a good photo to me is something that it's just different. Like a lot of people will see stuff and say like, oh, that was good, so I'm going to try replicate it, or they'll see something and go, that's the kind of safe basic shots. But I tend to try to look for something that you haven't seen before, or try to catch people in a way that like they just look their best, or the scene just looks its best.
Yeah, so like getting
just something that stands out, something that when you see it, you're like, wow, it kind of impresses you when you see it. So, yeah. A lot of times, like when you're scrolling Instagram, you're just seeing like a lot of the same shots over and over, different people doing the same kind of stuff. It's just I think this day, because social media has flooded everything with photographs, it's hard to stand out and be different and original.
It is.
I think just if you're able to just make the photograph, if it's something that's hard to replicate, something that just captures that moment and not something that's set up that people can replicate, to me, that's what a good photo is.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess when you are working with clients, helping the client as well to kind of get their own style, while you're shooting them and working with them on suggestions on, maybe if they, like I remember I worked with you before and you recommended bringing different clothes to shoot and having different looks for the shoot and being able to work with the partner that way. I mean, somebody that executes this really, really well, who's one of the best in the world at doing this, and you've taken a picture of her, I'm going to pull up right now, is this young lady.
Yeah, Billie.
So this is a picture you've taken, but instantly to me, it just jumps out because of you just caught her in the right moment, but it's a combination of you catching her in the right moment and just the colors that, and the way she presents herself, it's such a great picture.
Yeah, like the thing with that photo for me was I got extremely lucky to get that shot. Pretty much everybody else, she was kind of like off limits at the festival. I was shooting with the act that was on the main stage before her. I was shooting for them. So the manager managed to get a meet and greet for his kids to go back. And because I was shooting with them, I was like, oh, I suppose you'd want a professional shot of that. So I managed to get in and get some shots, and they allowed me just to take a few photographs. So the thing that stood out with that shot versus the others is that everyone else just got stuff up on the stage, where that was one off on its own. But with that, like looking at her facial expression, she's smiling, it's complimentary. It just kind of like stands out compared to like all the others. It's something different to what everyone else was getting.
The way you edited the colors, it makes the picture pop. I mean, that's definitely something that would, if I was flicking through a feed, it would catch my attention. Not just because it's Billie Eilish, but just because of the green bang pops out and the way you've edited the reds pop off the shirt. You're kind of, it stops you. Like it's that extra piece you were talking about, extra little fairy dust that makes it stand out.
Yeah, like it's one thing to take the shot, and then the other thing is when you bring it into the editing software, it's to kind of know what's going to work best with this photo, what's going to make it pop. Like what you said, there's green in it, so depending on, it's a smiling photograph, so you want it to look kind of more vibrant and stuff. So if you can just edit that image so it just complements the person. Like if I had have edited that, and a lot of people like the kind of faded film look, I don't think that would have really worked with that one.
Yeah,
so it's just a matter of kind of like knowing the subject, knowing what's in the photograph, and trying to bring it out at its best, make the colors look at the best that they can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, like when you're working, I mean, I'll pull up some of your pictures in a second, some of your shots to give everyone a taste, but like a lot of the subjects that you take pictures of or shoot video for are kind of, they're high celebrity kind of status. And I guess, how do you build those relationships to have trust with an artist like, Billie Eilish, or whether it's Hosier, or whether it's, LinkedIn or whoever it is? What's your philosophy in kind of working with the client to build that trust?
The way I kind of got started with everything was it's just kind of like meeting some people, doing some work for them liking the work, and then kind of like word of mouth. Just if people asking me to do like I said, when I started off, I was doing photography as a hobby, and I didn't know how to make a profession of it. But the reality is, you just have to network. You just have to be able to know people. People pass your name on to other people. You get your name out there. People come to you if they like your work, and they hire you off it. Part of the reason I did go back to college to study stuff was to kind of like meet people that had similar interests, meet people that knew people out in the industry, and just try to network and make connections. And then it was just through coming out of college, working with some people, getting into the corporate company. Every time you're on the shoot, you're meeting different people.
Mm-hmm.
They get to know you, and then like you never know, some person will say, oh, they'll be asked like, do you know a photographer? And they're like, oh, I worked with this person on the shoot. Your name gets out. So with the way I got started with the corporate stuff was through that. I had the corporate work, and then when I went out, people that I knew that were working in marketing and working in different areas of different companies, they knew that I was freelance, so they'd seen my work and they'd approach me, knowing that I could do what I could do. The thing with music, then music is a little different. Well, it's kind of similar, but because people like, I kind of got to know like one band, did some work with them, people saw the work, other people started asking me to shoot their stuff, and then just the more people start seeing my work out there, start seeing the acts that I was working with, they liked the stuff, and I just kept getting approached then.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it's a combination of obviously being good at your craft and putting the time in to kind of, obviously take amazing pictures. But also the other half of that as well is having that mindset of, listening to your clients and kind of taking feedback and working with them. I'm just going to pull up some of these shots here. So, like, can you talk me through this shot here? So, in these moments when you're like, that, for example, the pyro's going to go off, or you have a feeling it's going to go off, executing a shot like this, is it literally you're just finger on the trigger, ready to go?
Yeah, for that one I was shooting like covering that was at Electric Picnic, so I was shooting a lot of different acts. So for that one I didn't know what the show was going to be like. So it was, you just have to kind of like feel it, see what happens. Sometimes when we're doing stuff like that, we get told there's going to be pyro in whatever song, because if I'm shooting that, I'm standing between the crowd and the stage, so I'm really close to the stage. So the security will tell us there's going to be pyro during this song. So you'd get ready, you'd kind of like have an idea of where it's going to come. You can usually like listen to the song and kind of guess when it's going to pop, when it's going to go off. So what I would do is like just try to find the right position and say, I'll give this a go. And when the pyro goes off, I was lucky that I was just like a flame, a constant flame. So I was able to like move around a bit and try and figure out what worked best.
I gotcha.
Position him so the flames fill the frame nicely, and then he's nicely framed, and getting the little Hosier logo down on the drum kit so you can kind of see everything in it.
Yeah. I mean, the attention to detail is great. As I said, you can see everything. I'm just going to go through a few more here. So here's another one, the Kodaline.
That was Kodaline in St. Anne's Park. I was shooting that. Jay Boland, the bass player, actually got me a all access pass for that gig. So I took that. I was standing at the back of the stage, getting a shot of him. He was actually singing out at the crowd, looking towards that light, and I was getting some shots of him looking out at the crowd. And then he just turned around, and I just managed to snap that one. So I wasn't expecting that. He kind of like just turned around quickly. So that was just like fired a few shots and caught that one. Yeah,
it's a great shot. I'm just going to go through quickly some of these ones, but just to give everyone that's picture this. I want to bring up this picture here. So let me ask you a question here on this one. So basically I can see from this shot that you are at the very, 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 very back of the stadium. Now, I've seen other pictures from this shoot where you're on stage. So can you talk me through how important, but maybe talk me through the story of this picture first, and then how important is it as a photographer to move when you on shoots, to be active and to actively go out and get the shot?
Yeah, well, for that shoot, because that was such a huge production, there was two of us shooting that. So Christian Tierney, who's possibly the best Irish music photographer out there at the moment. He's touring with like some of the biggest international acts. The two of us were shooting that gig. So there was 2 nights of it. So basically what we were told at the start, we'd have a meeting with the band. They'd kind of like run us through and say, right, so speak to these people. They'll go through the set list and tell you when fireworks are going to go off, when confetti's going to go off, when stuff's going to go off. So you'll have a list of what's going to go off during what song. And then for that specific photograph, they were talking and they said, we kind of just want to show the scale of the show. So we want to show everybody how big the venue is, how big the show is, but we want to catch the fireworks going off. So they had actually played a show 8 years ago in the same venue, and somebody got a similar photo. So they basically said, like, during this song, this part of the song, we want this shot. But like you said, I left Christian up at the stage to I left Christian up at the stage to take photos up there, and I said I'd go and get that photograph. So to get that one photograph, it took me 3 songs. I had to leave at the start of the song before that to get up to the balcony, run all the way around, get in position for that song, take that photograph during that firework blast, take a few shots, get a selection. And then once that was over, it took me another song to get back down. So if it was just me shooting, it would have been 3 songs of just that one photo for 3 songs. But,
wow, so it's pretty much you're running around the venues essentially trying to capture these shots. So you're totally focused and basically running around, right?
Yeah, like I've shot some really, really energetic bands, and like at the end of the song, at the end of the gig, like they'd walk off stage and the lads would be sweating because they'd be performing so much under all lights, everything. I'd be walking back nearly equally as bad because like I don't just like stand around and just take shots and hope for the best. I usually have a plan. I usually like figure out what's going to happen, and I'll know like, okay, if it's going to be this type of moment in the gig, the back of the stage is the best part. But at the start of the song, the back is at the best shot, but then there's going to be confetti later, so I might need to get back to the back of the crowd. So if there's a lot of running around and then the next song happens, you might have to go up to the balcony or stuff. So
yeah,
it's
basically anticipating and being prepared really for your shoot, that you know set list, you know, when the songs, you know, when the big impact moments of the show are, or the conference or whatever it is you're shooting, and to just capture those moments and be ready.
Yeah, it's very different shooting gigs like that versus smaller gigs, and like sometimes I shoot for MCD as well sometimes, but for that I'd only get press passes, so I'd only go in to take photographs of the first 3 songs. They wouldn't be for the act, they'd be for MCD to use, so I wouldn't have access to the band. I wouldn't know what's going to happen. So that's just, you're in for a couple of songs, it's limited to your space, so you just have to be creative with what you get. But on shows like that, at that scale, I try to cover as much ground as possible and try and give as much different option. So I kind of try to give a shot from everywhere, rather than just handing up all shots from the barrier or all shots from the stage. I just try to cover as much ground as possible and capture the moments at their best position, whether that's back at the sound desk, up in the balcony, wherever.
Gotcha. Yeah, super. And so let's talk a little bit about aspect ratio in relation to pictures and video, because I know it's a big part of posting now on social media. What's your advice and approach on shooting content that can be used in both landscape but also portrait for, you know, all the social media platforms that everybody posts on?
In relation to video, I suppose like it depends on what the video is, what the client is asking you for. If it's something that's kind of like telling a story, like the cinematic 16:9 is usually what you'd go for, just with the way that with the way everybody's consuming everything on smartphones these days. You're holding your phone up constantly all the time. If you're watching stuff on TV, it looks good 16:9, but most people are scrolling. They have their phone as portrait. So I think it's a bit more acceptable these days to shoot stuff in like portrait, because it's going to fill the frame nicely on the smartphone. So if you're doing if you're shooting like an event or something and it's a one-off live event, you can kind of shoot stuff in a way that you can get creative, produce a portrait and a landscape video.
Yeah.
Kind of what I would do is I'd shoot a lot of stuff in 4K, and a lot of people want stuff delivered in HD. So if I shoot it in 4K, that gives me an option of having landscape or cropping in and moving to be able to produce a portrait video out of that. If it's something that's not a live event and it's more set up in a studio or something, you'd kind of know what the end product is like, so you'd shoot it whatever way.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I just want to touch on shooting in 4K, what you're going to mean by that. So basically, if you're shooting in 16:9 and you want to zoom in, if you're on a low resolution, it's going to be, you know, the picture quality is not going to be as good. Whereas if you shoot in 4K, which is, you know, extremely high resolution, you can crop videos and format them in 9:16 to make them look good in portrait. That's essentially what you're saying.
Yeah. So if you have something in HD, it's like a small resolution, and then you can either flip a portrait, and that'll have the same. It'll keep the same resolution without getting pixelated, but you'd have to have it shot portrait for that to work. But if you're shooting in 4K, you're still getting the 16:9, but it's like, I think it's like four HD squares in a bigger square, so you're able to like flip that HD, like kind of what we're seeing here. You have the thing down the middle. I can move the video over like this, depending on what's happening in the event. You'll be able to just reframe, and you have the option then of having 16:9, or you can cut it up into a story platform.
Yeah,
portrait.
Gotcha. And so, as a professional photographer who edits, spends a lot of time in Lightroom, maybe in Photoshop, capturing pictures, spending money on gear, equipment, what are your thoughts on built-in filters?
I think if you're, as in like Instagram filters and stuff.
Instagram filters, Facebook filters, any sort of filters, are we with them or are we against them, or what do you think?
I think if you're taking a photograph yourself and you're just taking photographs to throw up on Instagram for yourself, if you don't really know how to edit, you can throw on the filters and they'll give you a nice look. I think like as far as like I've been doing this for so long, when I started off, I used to filter everything and I'd look at all these different, I'd see what like a different filter would do to different shots, and you can throw the same filter onto 4 different photographs and get 4 totally different looks depending on where they're shot. So over the years, I kind of started teaching myself how to create these filters, how to get the same looks without using filters. So I think if you're professional, like they can be a good starting point. So you can throw one on and see what kind of look you get from it and then edit around it. But generally what I try to do, like what you mentioned about the Billie Eilish shot, I'll look at a shot and I'll start messing around and I'll kind of know just by looking at it, these colors need to pop. This is going to look better in a warmer tone, a cooler tone. Try and make it myself that way. But yeah, I think in the professional world, they can be a good starting point, but I think most people doing it for long enough kind of know how to tweak it themselves. But if you're doing stuff on your phone yourself, you're just trying to like do social media for a company, you don't really have proper professional color grading experience. Yeah, throwing on filters can be good for.
Yeah, I guess there is that fear if you are only using filters that your content becomes mundane and a little bit the same as everyone else. And that's the beauty, I guess, of when you hire a professional photographer, you're getting a custom made picture, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. When I started out, like I said, I used to use templates, I used to use filters, I used to use stuff like that, and it would get you a certain look, but everybody else has the same access to those exact same filters.
Exactly, yeah.
So people, they'll see that being thrown up by the first person who uses the template and stuff, and they're like, that looks cool, I want to do that. But then everything just looks the same. So if you're just like insert footage here into this template, you get a certain look of a video. Or if you throw you have like 10 filters on Instagram or something, and you only have them, like you said, it's going to be the same thing over and over. But one thing that I started learning years ago was, instead of downloading templates and downloading filters, people make them. So I wanted to be the person that knew how to make them, so I'd be able to make my own. So then that'd be a way of standing out. Otherwise, I'd just be using the same filters, same templates, and all my content the same as everybody else. You just get lost in it. So I think when it comes to the professional level, I try to stay away from purchased filters, LUTs, downloads, templates. I try to stay away from them as much as possible. Or if I do, I'll edit them enough that I'll use them as a base or take bits out of them, so it's more my style than just drop it on and leave it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think from a marketing perspective, even for any kind of up-and-coming entrepreneurs, like, I mean, it is good. It's a really good idea, as you said, to learn how to set, how to make presets. And so if you are going to use filters, if you are under time, that if you go into Lightroom and learn how to make them, at least then you have your own sort of brand or look or mark.
Yeah. Well, like that. Like if you make your own like that, you can make your own presets, filters. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because you would have made that to the style that you like to edit in. So it's just kind of like a quicker way of getting to your style of edit. Usually if somebody hires you, because it's a creative industry, usually if somebody hires me, they've seen my work, they know my style, they know what I can kind of do. So they'd kind of expect similar to what I've done in the past or whatever. So if I have my own presets or filters that I've created, just throw them on, and if they work straight off, great. If not, tweak them a bit more just until they work.
Yeah, good point. Do you think it's come so far as maybe social media has because of things like filters has come so far that the days of just putting up a picture, which I used to do back in the day, back on Facebook, I just put up a picture and not touch it, that those days are gone, and that there's a certain like level to entry now on picture quality and video quality for that matter. It's tough because I mean there is really high quality content out there that does really well, but at the same time, if you look at something like TikTok, where people are shooting stuff on their phone with the lowest quality in some cases possible, and the engagement is very high. So maybe it's platform specific.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that, like, it's I suppose it depends on if you're like if it's a company, they'll kind of want quality. I think it kind of depends on what the content actually is. If it's something that's they just need some bit of content because there's nothing really big going on, a quick photograph or a quick video. I've noticed that since social media, lower quality videos and photos have become a bit more acceptable. But with editing the shots to make them look more professional, I think it's kind of dependent on the platform. Instagram kind of looks for a lot more quality, but like what you said, TikTok, it's people just getting their phone out, doing a dance, doing a song or something. Quality doesn't look that great, but the numbers that people get on videos skyrocket past what you could get on Instagram.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, like from working with your clients, what is the main request in picture format? Is it portraits? Is it more kind of product type shots, or what do you see the demand out there for photography and video in the corporate world, I guess?
In photography, like it pretty much all depends on the project. Like if it's, again, like I said, if it's a corporate thing and people want product shots, they don't really give a landscape portrait option. Like it's just whatever works best. Like
just make it look good.
Yeah, just make it look good. So like just give it. You'll be doing a project. You're not just going to give off one photograph, or if they do, like they might be specific. But I think whether it's portrait or landscape is all specific to the actual project. I don't think anybody's requesting one over the other because it's better.
Yeah.
So if you're doing video though on Instagram, like what a lot of people have started doing is not even in the stories, but on the actual feed, doing a kind of like portrait videos. Because if you're scrolling down and you see the landscape video, it's going to have text and everything top and bottom, so it's going to be kind of like lost in all the other information. But if you have a video that's portrait or portrait photographs on Instagram, it's going to fill more of the screen as you're scrolling, so it's going to stop and catch people's attention a bit more.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I love that idea. So basically, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say it's not really clients wouldn't really request that, but even if you give a landscape shot, they might kind of like get it down to like a portrait to just kind of do it. So it's not a request that they'll come in and demand either, but like a lot of people will kind of go a bit more towards the portrait stuff for Instagram, just because it'll fill more of the feed and kind of get more attention.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So I guess to that point, it's kind of like depending on your platform or your source of consumption, whether it's a laptop or a mobile, there actually is really different type of pictures that might perform better on each, because obviously, as you said, if you take something more of the screen, you're going to see more of it and it's going to grab your attention quicker. So that's a really good, suggestion to anyone that's watching or that might see this, that's in that area of building their brand or promoting themselves or promoting a post, or to be conscious of where the information is being consumed and build the content according to that platform, I guess.
Yeah, sorry, the connection broke up a bit there. I kind of missed the last bit that you just said.
Yeah, and I was just saying that it's a content consumption is just really important to, it's important to build your content for where you're going to consume it, I guess. I guess I'd love to ask you, like, how do you manage? Do you ever get nervous how do you manage nerves when like you're on these huge stages and in these huge arenas with 80,000 people? Like, how do you keep yourself focused and not, get nervous?
Getting nervous doing shoots. I suppose it kind of depends if it's something that a client has seen before and it's something I've done before. I don't tend to get too nervous because I've done it before. I kind of know what to do. I know how to prepare for it. I know what's involved. I'd go into it. If it's something that's kind of like bigger, something that I haven't done before, it can be a bit of nerves because you get that on the day. It's creative. You show up. Anything can go wrong. You can have everything planned out. Yeah. Like even like I just said, like you do the same thing over and over. Like you can get there, equipment can break down. Somebody might not be able to show up. Something can go wrong. So there's a lot of thinking on your feet as well. If you know what you're doing and that happens, that can kind of throw you and put a bit of stress into the situation. But if you go into a project and you've never done it before, or it's something really creative, there can be a bit of nerves going in that you hope it all works. You can plan a lot. You can assume that like it's going to work properly because you put the research in, the planning. But yeah, I think it depends. If it's a big project and something I haven't done before, there could be a bit of nerves.
Yeah, you don't get nervous, right? I've seen you in action. No bother.
That's stuff that I've done before. Like,
yeah. What in your opinion, like, having built up the clientele list you have and being as fortunate enough as you have to be able to work on such huge productions and work from everywhere from rock and roll to the corporate world, what do you think is the key to being successful?
I think it's just, if you want to do something like this, you just have to devote all your time to it. Say goodbye to a social life. You just have to be able to get out, meet with clients. Like the actual shoot itself is one thing. You can spend all day on a shoot, but there's a lot of build up to that, meeting up with people, planning it, the pre-production, getting the gear, shooting the gig, shooting the event, coming home, doing the edit, making sure that everything's okay. That's one project, but you could have a couple of them on the go at the one time. So you're trying to manage all them. I think it's just being able to devote your time to it, being able to work with people. Like it's creative. Like people can have like completely different opinions on stuff. People can come in, ask you to do stuff that they expect, like they probably expect see something big production and then come to you with like a small budget and go, we want this. It's being able to like work with people, deal with people, being able to network constantly. You're just constantly on the go. Like it's
it sounds to me like keeping. It sounds to me like being open-minded, I guess, is a big part.
Yeah, it's just working with people, being able to work with clients, get your name out there. Probably one of the better ways to stay successful.
Be approachable, for sure, anyway. Nice. Yeah. Well, you're very approachable, right? Because we've worked together a few times, so.
Oh, yeah.
Lovely. Okay, right. I think we're going to take a few questions from the stream. A few questions coming in. So we'll start off with Jer. Question for Ray. What did it feel like on stage when the curtain lifted facing the crowd during the Westlife Crow Park gig? By the way, which is 80,000 people, in case anyone doesn't know. It looked insane. Your work was fantastic. Talk us through that, Ray.
That moment was a bit insane because that was the intro to the first day. So for the 3 hours before that moment, I was in the videographer's room, which is under the stand. So when we came out, we followed the guys under the stand around the back of the stage, and we followed them up just to get some shots of them, getting ready. Then we were supposed to like run back down, get out and get that screen lifting from the front. But literally at the last minute, one of the guys said, was there a way that we could stay up there to film that? So that was a last minute decision. I didn't know that was going to happen. So we just heard the music going off. I hadn't seen the crowd. I hadn't seen how many people were out there. Second that thing started lifting, I was looking at the screen. I could see it on the screen and it looked insane. But then once it went up, I just looked out like that, and to see it with my eyes, it's insane. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
one of the most surreal moments of my life, like just looking out at 80,000 people.
this is the slate for the show, but this is the picture I think, Ray, you're talking about.
No, that was a bit later in the show, but it would have been kind of similar to that. There was a video that the guys posted on their social media, and it was just the curtain rising up, and I was at the edge, and you just see the electronic screen lifting up and revealing the crowd.
Must be some atmosphere and the noise and everything. Wow, amazing. Okay, another question. My teammate Amaraj is asking, what assets or tricks would you use to grab someone's attention in the first 5 seconds? Movement, color, sound. That's a really, really good question. So I presume he's talking about video here.
Yeah. If I'm doing stuff for myself personally, for my socials, if I'm promoting my work, I tend to try and do stuff that quick moving stuff or something flashy. Like if you're scrolling through quickly, a lot of stuff is just static, or the start of somebody taking out their phone to show stuff on stories, or it's not usually that interesting. But if you scroll and then something hits you and it's just like a quick appearance of a word, or some flickering of lights or graphics or something, just something that you'll stop and go, oh, that's interesting, I wonder what that is. But that's going to get the attention to start watching the video. But then just try to get as much information in. Like, I think it's just more getting information in rather than trying to get attention and then start building up to something. Just don't fluff it out. Just have just the main stuff that you need to get.
Yeah, so quick transitions, quick cuts.
Yeah, quick transitions, cuts at the start, just kind of to catch the attention. But once you have the attention, you have to kind of keep the attention. So I'd try not to get their attention and then go into the slow stuff, because they'll lose it'll lose people's attention then. Yeah,
that's a really good point. I mean, and keeping their attention is difficult, so you have to have some really good content to keep them going from there. Even like it's a difficult challenge, but that's why we have people like yourself and producers to try and execute those visions and capture them. Okay, so Moira Riley has a question. Hey Ray, how do you nail the camera settings for a gig when the lights are rapidly changing and you might only have a split second to adjust the settings and catch the artist's pose? That's a really good question, because not being an excellent photographer myself, I do struggle with this exposure.
With me, the cameras that I use for shooting have they're mirrorless, so that means that the viewfinder when you're looking through is a screen. So kind of when you change the settings, you kind of see what the shot's going to be like when you take it. So with the older cameras, it was optical, so you'd kind of see what your eye sees and you wouldn't really know what way the settings were, so it's a bit harder to get the shots. Just with the cameras I use, you can kind of dial it in before you take the shot and kind of know pretty much what you're going to get. But another thing as well is just as you're at the show, you're kind of like feeling out the lighting. Like the lighting's going to change. You know that the lighting guy is going to make the lights kind of like flash and interact to the beat of the music. So once you kind of get to know what the song is like, if you do know the song before, you'll know that like if it's a slow part going to build into something, that there's a hit, you'll know that the lights are going to go from real slow to real energetic. So a lot of it is trial and error. Like you could take a few hundred shots in a gig and only come out with about 10 or 20 great ones. So with live music, because it's just so spontaneous, like you don't know what's going to happen. A lot of it is trial and error, but just try to feel the performance, feel the lighting, and try and predict. Like a lot of times what they'll do in the first chorus, they're going to do the same in the second chorus, so you kind of get an idea for that, so you can kind of get the shot. But the people can move around between them two times, so the shot that you were going to get the first time, they might move. So it's a lot of trial and error, and just kind of like trying to predict what's going to happen before it does.
Gotcha. Just a quick question from me before we jump on to the next one. How many shots do you take on a shoot, average? How many are we talking here?
If it's a concert, again, it depends on the show. If it's a it's kind of mellow show if it's not too interactive, if there isn't a big production. Could easily take 600 to 800 shots. The likes of that Westlife gig, there could be easily could take 2,000 photographs. So
Wow.
like sometimes if it's a quiet song and they're at microphones, you just need to take a shot here and there because it's not really going to change that much. But if it's something that's a lot of pyro going off or a lot of confetti or a lot of stuff going off, it's so rapid, sometimes you put the camera into burst mode, which means like it just takes 10 photographs a second or whatever.
Wow.
That could rack up about like 20-30 shots in about 2 seconds. So a mix between burst shots and single shots, like it can be anywhere. For a 2-hour show could be anywhere between like 2,000, 3,000 photographs.
Wow, that's all.
And then you spend the night going through all them to pick up the best one and then edit them and
you need to iron through them.
Yeah, and have them ready for the morning.
Yeah, that's not an easy task, I'm sure. Okay, so we'll take one more here. I know we're kind of coming up on time. Take one here from Scott. So Scott is my good friend from London. Scott, how do you manage comms at music gigs when it's particularly quite chaotic all around? Would you be on comms for the big shows, or are you kind of
comms as in like listening to a director or anything like that, is it?
I presume he means like comms, so like you can talk to the crew and stuff.
Yeah, I would actually be shooting different to those guys. Those guys, they'd kind of either be locked off camera work that would be locked off cameras that would be going to the screens. So what they do is live to the screens for the crowd to see there and then. What I would normally do is the camera work I do is recording stuff. Like I'll be running around and it's just me. So I'll do that. Or if it is a much bigger show and we need specific video shots, we'd kind of like just do it beforehand and just say, right, you get the stuff from the balcony, I'll get it from the pits. We kind of prearrange it. Like what I said earlier with the set lists, we'd kind of say, just get stuff from there, because we'd just be coming back with kind of like a highlight video or something like that. So for that, like I wouldn't be on comms listening to a director. I'd be doing stuff for them to use later.
Super. All right, Ray, we're going to wrap it up with this one. I'd love to get your advice maybe for anyone that's watching this that maybe is a photographer already or wants to kind of get into photography. What advice would you have them? Would you give them for pursuing this career, or just in general, just life advice maybe?
Advice on becoming a professional photographer: get a real job. But yeah, I think it's a little tougher these days, just because a lot of cameras have become so cheap. People have smartphones, so a lot of people are doing. A lot of people can just take photographs, so it is harder to get out there. I think the best thing is, if you have a portfolio, just try to get your stuff into the eyes of the right people. If they see that you are actually professional and you are trying to make a living out of it, it's not just a hobby to you. If it's something that it's something that you're trying to make a living of, they know that you're available all the time, you'll start getting approached that way. But you kind of have to have the body of work. So if you're trying to get into corporate stuff, if you can just, I don't know, do little setups at home, trying to like do product photography at home, kind of get a bit of a portfolio, start going to small businesses that are looking for stuff, do stuff with them, get that, and just try to build and build and build. If you do
get as much experience.
Yeah, so if you're trying to get into corporate stuff, like approach small businesses, coffee shops, small businesses, see if they want any work done for a small rate or whatever, get that bit of a portfolio. If they like it, they'll post on their socials, get your name out. They'll pass your name on to other people. You can use that work to give on to other places and say, this is the work that I can do. Would you like to work with it? You could ask a few different places. When you're starting out, it's like people aren't going to be looking for you. When you're starting out, you're going to be looking for the work. So you have to be ready. You have to be ready to hear the word no. That you're going to hear the word no more than you're going to hear the word yes.
It's a really good point.
Yeah, I think a lot of people see people that are doing it for years and see that they're constantly working and think, oh, when I start out, it's going to be like that. When I started out, I was being told no lots of stuff, but it's only once your work does start getting into the right hands and they start passing on your name and stuff. It take a while, but yeah, it's all networking, getting out there. Start small, build up, and you just build up your network over the years, and the jobs get bigger and more frequent.
Brilliant. That's super, and I think that's great advice. I actually wrote an article, I think earlier this week, and pretty much my first point was exactly what you just said, and it was not waiting for it to come to you and for you to go and get it yourself. That's really important. And
yeah, like it's a freelance industry. You're putting yourself out there to do the work, but unless you have a name out there and people see the work and want your stuff specifically, people aren't going to be looking for you. Your phone isn't just going to ring. You have to go out and look for it and get it.
Absolutely. Definitely agree.
So start off small, get that network, and it'll eventually build up. You'll get more and more over time, and the jobs will get bigger over time.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Okay, Ray, I'm going to hit you with some rapid fire questions here, right? I'm going to give you 3 or maybe 4, but you have to answer as quick as you can. Okay, I'm going to let you go because I know it's getting late. Okay, dream band to shoot.
Oh, it's actually a bit annoying because I nearly got one of them there recently. I've been a big fan of like Blink-182, Green Day, all that, and I did have a photo pass for the Green Day gig that was supposed to happen at the RDS, but with everything going on, so it would have been press stuff. It wouldn't have been shooting directly for them, but I would have took that. But yeah, if I could do a tour with like the original Blink lineup or Green Day or My Chemical Romance, stuff like that, that'd be the dream at the moment.
Yeah, that'll be pretty rock and roll. Yeah, I took it to that gig too. I was so disappointed that it was cancelled till next year, but we can just live and dream till next year. Biggest pinch me moment. There's been a few.
I think because of the type of gig it was, probably the Westlife Crow Park gig. Yeah, just because when I started, the thing that got me into doing music photography was watching tour documentaries, and you'd see some guy would follow a band doing a stadium tour across the States and make a documentary out of it. You see all the stuff behind the scenes and getting to see that access at like such big venues. And I always wanted to do something. Anybody can get in to shoot like a small local band in a small local pub or something like that. But to get to that level, you have to, the likes of that, like, yeah, it's like what Jared asked earlier, to be standing and just be thinking that like, wow, I'm actually allowed on stage while this screen lifts up and I'm looking out at 80,000 people from the edge of the stage. Like,
yes,
just to shoot a show of that scale, that scale of production, scale of act, that was live streamed to cinemas. Like it was one of the biggest productions I was involved in. So probably just being involved in the crew was probably a great moment. Okay,
Westlife at 80 or 85,000 people even in Crow Park.
82,000 a night for 2 nights.
Wow. Okay. Yep. Can't argue with that. Favorite piece of gear or desert island piece of, if you had one desert island piece of gear, what is it? Doesn't have to be camera gear.
I suppose it'd have to be camera gear because that's pretty much what I do. Could
be radio.
I don't know. I'd probably my laptop.
Yeah.
If I'm not working, if I'm not shooting anything with photography or on my phone, I'm on my laptop watching YouTube videos, learning more stuff. That's another thing what you were saying about being successful. You have to stay learning, so constantly watching YouTube videos, keeping up with trends. Yeah,
actually, that was also in the article I wrote, that not to underestimate the power of LinkedIn Learning and tools like YouTube. It's definitely a no-brainer. I'll end this one. Your favorite personal photographer to appreciate pictures, photography, videography. Actually, I have one more after this. And then I'll leave you alone. But you can answer this first.
I like a few, like one of the photographers that kind of like I used to follow when I started doing stuff was a guy called Adam Almakayas. He did a lot of kind of pop punk stuff in the early days, and then another guy, Bob Gruen, who shot with John Lennon, The Clash, Green Day. Like he basically shot the 70s. He's stuff like that. Irish photographers, Christian Tierney, Darren Wallace, Ruth Meshberg, like they're all just killing it at the moment.
Yeah, they're all dog right names.
Anytime you see any of their stuff popping up, like it's never a bad shot.
Yeah, can't disagree with that. I'm going to add in this one in just because it's related to videography and photography. But favorite movie director, given that it's in the same field.
I'd say from like years back, I'd probably J.J. Abrams, just because as well as just doing the video work, I like special effects. Like I used to go to some films and people would hate them because they didn't like the story, but I'd go and special effects are amazing.
Yeah,
like, Super 8 and Star Trek. Like I loved all that. That's kind of what got me into the video stuff and the After Effects stuff. So I'd say like a lot of his films pop out just because it's just gonna be a spectacle.
Yeah, absolutely. That's for sure. All right, Ray, my friend, thank you so much for jumping on and speaking with me. It was an absolute pleasure, and definitely no problem. Thanks for having on, and definitely a lot of takeaways on some of the items we talked about in relation to taking a good picture, social media, and the kind of type of content that we should be and are building, but also like the importance of having for professionally edited pictures that to make your content stand out, to get that engagement is such a big part, and that's why me and you exist, and that's why we build content and add value. Okay, Ray, thanks a million. We'll be back again, hopefully with another guest, maybe next week or the week after, still lining some up. So with that, just want to say thanks a million, Ray, and thanks everybody that watched. Thanks for all the questions that came in, and until next time, bye-bye, everybody.
All right, bye. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.